You probably have rules for yourself already. No meetings without an agenda. Mornings are sacred for deep work. AI drafts, but it doesn't make final calls. On paper, you're disciplined. Now think about last week. How many agendaless meetings did you still accept? How many deep work blocks got quietly overwritten by just this one fire? How many decisions did you let an AI tool make because you were tired and it was good enough? That gap between your written rules and your lived behavior is where a lot of your leverage quietly evaporates.
And the uncomfortable part is, most of us only notice that gap when something breaks. A bad hire, a blown deadline, a strategic miss you technically saw coming, but didn't protect time to think through. The system reveals the truth, and your calendar, your inbox, your commits, they all tell you exactly how you're actually operating, if you bother to look.
This briefing is about looking in a way that's fast enough and simple enough that you'll actually do it every week. Today, we're introducing the Executive Guardrail Scorecard, one page that shows you, at a glance, where you're honoring your own operating rules and where you're quietly breaking them. You'll get a 3-move play. Select. Choose 5 to 7 guardrails that actually determine your leverage. Instrument. Define one observable indicator for each guardrail. Inspect. Run a 10 to 15-minute weekly review with AI doing the counting. By the end, you'll have a living feedback loop, not another slogan on your notes app. Clarity is leverage. This is how you measure whether you're protecting it in practice.
Let's define the thing first. An Executive Guardrail Scorecard is a single page, digital or physical, that answers one question. This week, did I operate inside my own rules? Not in theory, not in intention, in actual behavior. On that page, you have a short list of your core guardrails, the rules that protect your time, your attention, your decision quality, and your use of AI. And for each guardrail, you have one simple indicator that tells you very bluntly whether you stayed inside the line or went over the edge.
Think of it as a weekly flight dashboard, but for your behavior. Pilots don't rely on vibes. They look at instruments: speed, altitude, heading. Your guardrail scorecard does the same thing for your operating rules. For example, if one of your rules is no more than 4 hours of meetings per day, your scorecard doesn't care how overwhelmed you felt. It just asks, how many days did you stay inside that 4-hour cap?
The value here is not complexity, it's evidence. Most high-agency operators don't need more rules. You already know what works for you. What you lack is a tight feedback loop that tells you every 7 days whether you're actually living inside those rules. That's what the scorecard gives you, a visible pattern of drift and a simple way to course correct before drift becomes a new, worse default.
Move 1. Select. Most people fail right here. They try to track everything and end up tracking nothing. You're going to pick 5 to 7 non-negotiable guardrails, not preferences, not aspirations, guardrails. These sit in 4 buckets. Time. How much of your week is consumed by others? Focus. How much of your best attention you actually protect? Decisions. How you handle important, irreversible, or expensive calls. AI usage. Where AI helps and where it is absolutely not allowed to be the final word.
A quick litmus test. If you broke this rule consistently for a month, would your leverage drop in a way you could feel? If the answer is no, it's not a guardrail. It might be a nice habit, but it doesn't belong on this page. Patterns create power. You want guardrails that, when honored, systematically tilt the game in your favor.
Let's make this concrete.
Here are examples of guardrails in each bucket. Time. No more than 4 hours of meetings per day, 3 days a week max. No meetings before 10 a.m. to protect deep work. Focus. 2 90-minute deep work blocks on strategy per week are non-negotiable. Notifications off for the first and last hour of the workday. Decisions. No major hiring, pricing, or partnership decisions without a written one-page brief. Sleep on any decision that moves more than $50K or touches more than 5 people. AI usage. AI can draft, but I edit every external message that carries my name. No AI-generated numbers in investor updates without human verification against source data. Your job. Pick 1 to 2 guardrails per bucket that actually move the needle for you.
And notice what's not on that list. Vague statements like, be more focused, or use AI more. Those are wishes, not guardrails. Guardrails are specific, observable, and a little uncomfortable to break, because when you do, you know you're trading short-term relief for long-term drag.
Once you've selected your 5 to 7 guardrails, move 2 is instrument. This is where most people are tempted to overbuild. Dashboards, trackers, complicated workflows. Don't do that. The rule here is simple. 1 guardrail, 1 indicator. And the indicator must be something your existing tools can show you in under 30 seconds. Calendar, email, docs, project systems. That's your data exhaust. You're not adding work. You're mining what you already produce.
Let's match indicators to those earlier examples. Guardrail, no more than 4 hours of meetings per day, 3 days a week max. Indicator, count of days this week where total calendar events exceeded 4 hours. Guardrail, 2 90-minute deep work blocks on strategy. Indicator, number of deep work blocks that remained intact on the calendar, meaning they weren't shortened or overwritten. Guardrail, no major hiring or pricing decisions without a one-page brief. Indicator, number of major decisions made this week versus how many have a linked written brief in your doc system. Guardrail, AI drafts I edit before my name goes out. Indicator, number of AI drafted external communications versus how many show an edit history under your account.
Notice the pattern. You're not rating your intentions. You're counting observable events. How many meetings exceeded the cap? How many deep work blocks survived? How many big decisions had briefs? How many AI drafts you actually touched? If your indicator requires you to rely on memory, it's wrong. If it requires a separate manual log, it's fragile. The right indicator is already sitting in your tools, waiting to be counted.
You can sanity check each indicator with 2 questions. 1, could an assistant or an AI agent get this number without asking me anything? 2, would I still track this if I were tired, annoyed, and behind on email? If the answer to either is no, simplify.
Now, move 3. Inspect. This is the part that makes the whole system alive. Once a week, same day, same 10 to 15-minute window, you sit down with your Guardrail Scorecard and ask a simple question for each line. What actually happened? This is not a journaling session. It's not therapy. It's a quick inspection with numbers attached. And it's where AI becomes a very efficient analyst.
Here's a lightweight way to run the review. First, have your AI assistant pull the raw indicators. From your calendar, total meeting hours per day, number of preserved deep work blocks. From your docs, count of major decisions and how many have briefs. From your email or CRM, AI drafted messages versus those you edited. Then you simply label each guardrail for the week: green, yellow, or red. Green, you stayed inside the guardrail. Yellow, you bent it a bit, but consciously. Red, you broke it repeatedly, often without noticing in the moment.
Here's what that might sound like in practice. Time guardrail, 4 hours of meetings max, 3 days a week. AI says you had 4 days over 4 hours of meetings. The worst day was 7.5 hours. You mark it red. Deep work guardrail, 2 90-minute blocks preserved. AI says you scheduled 2, but both were cut short for urgent calls. Yellow, maybe red, depending on context. Decision guardrail, written brief before big calls. AI says 3 major decisions, 1 documented brief. That's another red. Just like that, in a few minutes, you're facing the truth of how you're actually running your week.
And here's the key mindset. This is not a moral report card. It's a behavior instrument. You're not aiming for straight greens. You're aiming for awareness. Sometimes you'll intentionally break a guardrail to close a deal, handle a crisis, or back a teammate. That's fine. That's judgment. What you're watching for are repeated reds in places that matter, where you didn't realize how often you were trading away leverage.
Interpreting the scorecard comes down to one question. Is this drift acceptable experimentation, or is it erosion of my core leverage? Acceptable experimentation sounds like, I broke my deep work rule this week because we're closing a round, and I'll consciously rebalance next week. Erosion sounds like, for 6 weeks straight, my deep work blocks died by Wednesday, and I've made 0 adjustments to protect them.
One simple way to decide. Imagine this pattern continuing for another 90 days. If your gut says, that would hurt, you're looking at erosion. If your gut says, that's fine for this season, you're probably in experimentation. Precision drives agency. Name which one you're in, and suddenly you're choosing drift rather than being dragged by it.
From there, your rule is 1 adjustment per week. Not 5. Not a full system rebuild. 1. You look at your reds and yellows and ask, what single change would protect the most leverage next week? Examples. If meetings are consistently over the cap, you instruct your assistant or your AI agent to auto-decline any invite without an agenda and to cap your afternoons. If deep work blocks keep dying, you move them earlier, mark them as busy, do not book, and tell your leadership team this is now a hard boundary. If big decisions lack briefs, you make a rule. No decision goes on the calendar until the brief link is attached to the event. 1 adjustment, implemented immediately. Then you let the scorecard tell you, next week, whether it actually stuck.
This is how you avoid turning the scorecard into a perfection game. If you demand instant green across every guardrail, you'll burn out and quietly stop looking. If you treat it as a weekly experiment, 1 lever, 1 adjustment, your behavior and your systems evolve together in a controlled way.
Let's zoom in on how AI makes this whole thing lightweight instead of bureaucratic. You do not need a complex dashboard. You need a competent assistant, human or AI, that can read your tools and answer simple questions.
Here are example prompts you can use each week. For your calendar, you might say, scan my calendar for last week. For each weekday, calculate total hours in meetings. Count how many days exceeded 4 hours. Also count how many 90-minute deep work blocks labeled strategy remained at full length without being shortened or deleted. Summarize in a short table. For decisions and briefs, look at my docs and project tools for last week. Identify any documents or tickets labeled as decisions involving hiring, pricing, or partnerships. Count how many such decisions were made and how many have an associated 1-page brief. Report the ratio. For AI usage, Review my external emails and documents that were drafted using AI last week. Count how many were sent without any human edits from my account versus how many show edits before sending. Summarize the totals.
You're basically training your AI to be a weekly compliance analyst for your own rules. Over time, you can even have it generate the green, yellow, red labels and propose one adjustment based on your history. But don't start there. Start with simple counts and a one-page scorecard you actually look at.
Let's land this with a concrete action plan you can run today. Step 1. Draft 5 guardrails. Open a blank page and write down 1 time guardrail, 1 focus guardrail, 1 decision guardrail, 1 AI usage guardrail, and 1 additional rule where you know you're prone to drift. Make each one specific and observable, something your tools could confirm without asking you how you felt.
Step 2. Assign one indicator to each guardrail. Where does this show up in my data exhaust? Calendar, email, docs, tasks? Write the exact question you'll ask your AI assistant each week to get that number. Keep it to 1 sentence per guardrail.
Step 3. Put a 15-minute scorecard review on your calendar for next week. Same day, same time, ideally Friday afternoon or Monday morning. Title it Guardrail Scorecard, Inspect and Adjust. During that slot, you'll ask your AI to pull the 5 indicators. Label each guardrail green, yellow, or red. Choose 1 adjustment for the coming week. That's it. 30 minutes of setup now, 15 minutes a week going forward to know whether you're actually operating the way you say you are.
The system reveals the truth, and when you have that truth in front of you in 1 page, you stop lying to yourself about why you're tired, overbooked, or stuck. You start working on the real problem, the gap between your rules and your behavior, and that's where leverage lives.
If this was useful, treat it like a weekly asset. Build your own Guardrail Scorecard today. Schedule that 15-minute review, and then subscribe so these briefings keep sharpening your systems and your behavior over time. Make your next move count. Stay agentic.